What's going on, everybody? I am the Uncanny Omar, and today I have the pleasure to be talking to David Hazan, all the way from Melbourne, Australia. Is that where you are,
Yep,
sir?
that's correct.
Thank you for joining me. He is the writer of Nottingham, and we also have the artist, Shane Connery Volk. Right? Is that right?
Hey,
Volk?
those three names, they trip people up. So you did well. Thanks, Omar.
Oh, yeah. I'm known for mispronouncing so many names, so
Hey,
that's
you and me
what I
both.
do. That's what I do. And you are in Alberta, Canada, correct?
Yeah, I'm at Calgary. Yeah.
All right, so we're just waiting for Luca, who is the colorist, who may or may not be joining us because Luca's in Italy. So it's like a man. All of you came together to make this book right here. So we are here to talk about the Nottingham hardcover. This has been previously released in single issues, which I've had some viewers say they had a hard time trying to find, especially that issue number 1. And it's also been released in trade paperback format, which is the most accessible format to get it in is the trade paperback. It's widely available through our sponsors or Cheap Graphic Novels, Walt's Comic Shop, or you can get it through Amazon or Mad Cave Studios website. Now, this, however, is going to be limited. This is the hardcover of Nottingham. It is a standard size hardcover too. So,
Yeah, limited to 500 right now, I think.
I believe so. There is a number here. It's the book plate for it. But let's talk about Nottingham, and then we can talk about the hardcover and how people can get it. So let's see here. How did this project come about? Which one of you was like, okay, I want to take this story of Robin Hood and flip it around?
That's that guy right there.
That guy.
that
All right, David.
that would be me. Yeah, I both of us won Mad Cave's talent search, and Mad Cave asked me to pitch a noir, and I was like, I don't want to do anything super conventional. So I went to the drawing board, and I was like, let's do something that's in a completely different setting. And that led me to the Middle Ages, which led me to Robin Hood, and the rest is history. And we just basically took the Robin Hood story, turned it on its head, and our Sheriff of Nottingham is the main character, at least in this first arc, in a sort of medieval police procedural where he's the cop trying to solve a string of murders, and that's where the story begins.
Okay. So then that story was pitched to Mad Cave. And how did you and Shane get together? How did was this something that Mad Cave did behind the scenes, or did you work with Shane previously, or how did you guys come
Uh,
about?
so that was Mad Cave's doing
Mhm.
before I even pitched the story. They saw Shane's art come in from their annual talent search, and they saw my writing and thought it would be a good fit, and they were right.
I agree.
Yeah, it was. I think my drawing, my art style's just as weird as the story pitch was. So it was like that seems like a match made in heaven.
I one of the things that drew me to this book, whenever I got a stack of trades, was the actual cover. So the cover, which is the background to this, is this right here, which is the mask that they wear. And I'm not going to spoil exactly. It's the hood that they wear within the stories, but it's very stylistic. It stands out, I think, as a cover. I loved it, and I immediately picked it up, read it cover to cover,
Appreciate
uh,
it.
and I had a lot of fun with it. It was well
Hmm.
done. I like when you take a concept and you turn it on its head. I'm a big fan of that particular storytelling. And was this something that you've been wanting to tell for a while, David?
um, I gotta say, not particularly.
Okay.
It was kind of just happenstance. When you find the right story at the right time with the right artist, and everything just kind of falls into place, really.
Hmm.
Um, but I think that the most important thing whenever especially when you're telling a story like this with characters that have been used in multiple adaptations is to know, like know at the core the story that you're telling, because if you don't, the reader knows that you're just trying to use the characters and twist them in a very surface level sort of way. So it was important to me to, I guess, understand the themes that I was trying to mobilize using the Robin Hood characters, and it was important to tell a story that was true and relevant with them, I think.
Okay, so this is a personal question that I've been wondering when I was reading this. I'm not going to spoil who this particular character is. There's a character named Alan in here. Is that based on Alan Rickman? Just out of curiosity, or is this just the name?
Oh, I never thought about that. I never thought about that.
No.
Really? Okay.
So he's based. I mean, that's a good thought. He's based on a character from the legends called Alan Adale. And yeah, you have to kind of, some of the references to the legends, you have to really be paying attention. But
okay. I thought I was a genius, and I'm like, oh, it's obviously Alan Rickman.
Yeah, I'm just here to embarrass you on your show, obviously.
It happens all the time, man. Okay, cool. Yeah, so you will see it within the stories, if you've not read it, like you will see a lot of figures in here, like Will Scarlet, and there's always a twist with them, and that's what I enjoy. You don't really know who the good guy or the bad guys are. It's kind of almost like a gray side, and that's why I enjoy about it. Now, the first trade paperback and this hardcover collects the first 5 issues of this.
Yeah.
And you guys are it's still an ongoing series, right? Because I think issue number 9 is that the last one that is out, or
issue 8 is out. It was out in stores a couple of weeks ago, and in a couple of weeks, issue 9 comes out. So this year we've been doing, apart from a Free Comic Book Day issue, we've been doing issues 6 to 10, which will then come out in trade in a couple of months as well after that.
Okay. So Shane, what I'll ask David the same thing, but I'm curious, how did you come into the world of comics? What led you to go down the sequential art style path? Like, were you a fan of comics growing up? Most people usually are, but
yeah, I like I've been drawing since I was a little kid. Very stereotypical artist story of like kind of the artist kid in class, and always doodling and that kind of thing. And I loved comics, and I actually wanted to get into being a comic artist like in my teens and 20s, but then I discovered music and I got into that, and I have a really successful band here in Canada. So my main job is rock and roll. So I've been doing that for 20 years. Touring.
Dude, you're a rock and roll and comics?
Yeah.
Badass.
It's like 2 of the best things in the world, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's why I like behind me. You got Johnny Cash and Superman back there, so it's my worlds coming together. But a very long story short, like I've always designed our band merch and that sort of stuff, and I've like kept my art up, but I hadn't been taking it like super seriously. And then probably 3-ish years ago, I just kind of got to a point where I thought, if I'm going to do this, I got to start doing it, like really sit down. I always knew I wanted to do like sequential art, like get into actually drawing story and all that. So I started taking it a lot more seriously. And then fast forward to the Mad Cave talent contest, and I took a shot at that. Actually, it was my wife gave me the push I needed to say, hey, like, now's the time. Don't wait till next year. We were actually about to get married, and I was like running short on time. So I slammed this thing together, which was probably good to not overthink my submission, and just put it in there. And I ended up winning and got teamed up with David, and didn't think we'd be talking about, our first book being such a major hit, but I will absolutely take it.
Didn't think we'd be sitting here 3 years later still talking about it, but
right. Hey, I'm down though.
Damn. So this this is your first published work.
Yeah.
Both of us. Yeah.
And personally, as an artist, I mean, my style and stuff is changing and, expanding and all that. Actually, I did that first 5 books digitally, and I'm doing everything pretty much traditional now. I'm kind of hooked on making as much mess on a page as possible. So I kind of assumed my first book would be like, look, this is the best I got. I'm gonna get better. Don't worry, everybody. Like, but people responded to this kind of super gritty style that I have, and there's a bit of the weirdness of the character designs, and so it was a nice thing because I felt like, okay, I can really just dive into this. People are liking it. It's different. So I'm super appreciative of the fans and people that have been digging my artwork. So
No, I really dig it. It reminds me a lot of the like. Let's say like I've been reading a lot of Judge Dredd, and maybe that's
Oh.
why it reminds me of that stuff.
yeah,
It's well done, man. I'm just shocked to hear that this is the first published work you've had. And you too, David? This is the first. Like, how
Yeah.
did that happen? Or how did your journey? Is it similar? Are you also in a rock band? And
No, no. I'm a lawyer by training. And so I thought, what is a more difficult industry to exist in? And I landed on comic books. No, basically, well, I'd always been into comics related media. I never had that person to be like, here, comic books, until sort of maybe 2017, 2018. And some colleagues of mine kind of got sick of me talking about this stuff without having read the source material. And they kind of shoved a bunch of books in my hands, and it all snowballed. And I was like, I love this. And I have an obsessive personality. So I was immediately like, well, if I love this so much, why not try making some? And I tried it, and here we are.
okay, I have to say this is the craziest like interview I've had where most creators are like, oh, I've been trying to get into comics for like 10 years. Finally, somebody saw my stuff. You guys are some lucky bastards, man. That's awesome because this really does kick ass. I really enjoyed the story. Like I said, I read the trade paperback, and I mean, obviously, Mad Cave has a lot of faith in the product too because they don't do hardcovers. And I assume that this is testing the waters to see the interest in books like this, available only through the Mad Cave Studios website. I'm hoping that they will see the interest in this and release more books like this in this particular format. But not even their first comics are available in hardcovers, but what my point is. So they obviously have faith in this particular book, in both of you and Luca, whenever
if he shows.
I get it. He's in Italy, so
he's lurking in the shadows back there somewhere.
But
and I mean yeah.
I'm sorry. I was going to say the signs were there, though. Like I said, I had viewers reach out to me when they saw my trade paperback a few months ago. They were like, dude, that trade paperback is great. You need to read that. I had a hard time finding the first issue. Still can't find the first. Like, people were just telling me. So people were, word of mouth travels, especially when we have things like YouTube, right?
Yeah.
Where people are like, oh, you got to check this out. It's a hidden gem. That truly is a hidden gem, from a fairly new publisher, from Mad Cave. And now I hear more and more people talk about it. When I was talking about this interview, some people immediately knew what I was. I mean, if you look at some of the comments right now, I mean, people knew of your book.
Yeah.
And they're here asking questions. So they just checked out the listings on previews. Issue 10 out of 10 is due out next month. Are there plans to go be on the 10th issue? New volume, ongoing spinoff?
I'm still pretty new to comics, and I have learned to just say less when it comes to possible upcoming things. Because in the music world, I'm like, oh yeah, we got records coming out. Like, we're unabashed about, like, we're putting stuff out right now. But the Mad Cave likes to keep it on the down low till there's firm stuff. But I have a feeling, we'll just say this: if the interest in like the second arc is going really well, so if there's enough interest and things sell, you could probably see a third volume coming at some point.
Is that right, David? Do you agree, or is it Shane like throwing you under the bus?
I have no comment on this.
Okay, smart. I will say comics keep it a little closer to them. Like I think of like Squaresoft. I don't know if you guys play video games, but it also shows my age. I call it freaking Squaresoft instead of Square Enix. But when they announce like, oh, the Final Fantasy VII remake is coming, and people get excited, and like 5 years later, it's still not here. The hype eventually slows down and it dies a little. With comics, they like to keep it close and like, okay, we are going to be announcing something new, but just make sure to keep watching. Are you guys heading to New York Comic Con?
We are.
That's the plan. Yeah.
Yep.
That's the plan. Awesome. I will be there. I'll be there with my wife. Omar Reyes is going to be there. So
awesome.
We'll come by and say hi to you all.
Yeah, it'd be great. Yeah, we'll be there. We'll be there for 4 days hanging out.
Yeah.
So
due to living in Nottingham, I feel like I have to own this. It's a really cool concept. Go ahead, Shane. You were saying speaking.
No, like I was gonna say, it's been a weird ride for this team because again, David and I are brand new, and everything happened during all the lockdowns, right? So we haven't been to Comic Cons, we haven't met anybody, we haven't seen fans. Like it's been a very strange bubble. So it's gonna be. I'm gonna be going to like the Toronto Comic Expo. I'm not tabling or anything, but I'm gonna go check it out because I feel like it's time to like just get out in person, right? Like it's been a weird kind of, the book's been crazy successful, but we haven't had any kind of chance to get out and actually meet our fans and see people and get deeper into the industry. So excited to finally go do that in person for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's like releasing an album and not being able to tour.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it is honestly, because that is a big part of it, right? Like you get your work out there and then go, talk.
Yeah, you got to put yourself out there. I mean, there are many creators I've met that have had, that have started at small tables and then eventually gotten bigger and bigger and published at, one of the two big publishers, Marvel or DC. But I love companies like this. I love publishers like this that make each one of their books just shine. Actually, Joe is here. Joe Corallo. Hey, man. I've had him on the show. He's a great guy. He did the Beckstar book, which was also awesome. So I feel like, Mark and the team at Mad Cave really makes their creators stand out and shine. I think it's awesome. And I want to see more of their books, getting people's hands, and also more of these hardcovers would be nice. So as far as you all know, this is exclusively right now, right? Like the hardcover is exclusive to Mad Cave Studios. I think limited to 500. I will reach out and see if they're just testing the waters so we can, make a mass release of that.
Well, and it's like you said, I think they are probably testing things out a little bit because they know, based on the success of the book, the 500 should sell, but they're not a cheap endeavor, right? So before you put together,
and paper is expensive these days. That's the other thing. So
yeah, absolutely.
Oversized hardcover. Omar Reyes knows what's up. What's up, Charlotte? And Mad Cave crushing the game. Now we have Luca joining.
There he is.
Yes,
you made it, Luca.
Yes.
Thank you.
I swear to God, this interview is cursed.
This
There's
interview
a storm brewing over here, and my connection just came back. So what in the actual fuck?
Glad that you were able to join
I apologize
us.
for being late. I do not have a telephone connection that I could use otherwise. So
we knew you'd get here, buddy. We knew you'd get here.
Let me fix quickly my audio and everything else. Sorry for interrupting.
Oh, it's all good, buddy.
No. I'm glad you made it. You are the colorist on the book of Nottingham.
I am guilty as charged, my friend.
Now, was this also your first published work? Because this was meant to be if it was.
It was the first with the Mad Cave Studios, yes. I have other smaller other indie projects published before joining in with these amazing fellows. But this was my first big, long series with this kind of reach, which could probably be the biggest reach I have ever had and probably ever will, since
I don't know about that, my friend.
Come on, man.
Come on, we're going places. We're taking you with us.
I mean, have you guys seen how much copies we've sold? Oh. It's quite insane. We keep saying it over and over every time we check in with reality, but it's kind of what's the word in English?
Surreal.
Yeah, that's the word.
Surreal.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's great that, first of all, you've got these creators. You're representing 3 different continents.
Yep.
Right? You have
Because everything covered
Australia,
except from Africa and Asia.
Europe. Where's the letterer from?
United States. United States.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, that
Yeah.
Canada and United.
Yeah,
we're doubling up.
I don't want to be wrong, but isn't she African American?
It is.
I-
tell you,
My
I'll tell you
memory
who-
is flipping on me.
Well, I do believe.
Gil is the
Yeah.
letterer.
Yeah.
So none of you have met in real life.
No,
3 different
We
continents.
have not yet.
Not
just
yet.
just screens and Dropbox or whatever we're using.
So I was going to ask how
Yeah, I forgot.
how is the work process? I assume David writes the ideas, scripts. Do you guys meet before the issue is drawn and colored? Like how does that work?
I feel like we don't do anything the way it's supposed to get done. I think that's it.
No.
The theme of this whole interview is that we don't know what we're doing, and we're too new to understand what we're doing wrong. So
We're doing it live.
We're honestly just failing up at this point. No, but I think that we don't meet as often as we should, really. Just generally speaking, but we also I chat to Shane and Luca just on like DMs a lot, and we check in a lot, but we don't actually have a lot of like official meetings. Every time we go into an issue, and it's more just about getting the work done. And I try to make the script become that dialogue, and so hopefully, any questions that they have, they just come to me. But that honestly, especially with the latest volume, we've kind of just been working like a bit of a well-oiled machine. At least from my perspective. You two may have different perspectives, but I'm going with well-oiled machine here.
Well, honestly, like it is. I think sometimes you get these situations that it's kind of the right people at the right time, and we just like right off the bat, David and I hit it off. Like I loved the concept. I was like, I get it. Like let's and just there wasn't a ton of explanation that had to happen. I think I was also just pumped to get in and get drawing a story. I wasn't in there to rock the boat, and the story just kicked ass. So I just wanted to do the best I could, right? And the new arc is kind of the same thing. It's like David knows what he's doing. There's very little like, I would never sit in and say like, I think this or that should happen. I read the story. I'm like, this is great. I'll draw the shit out of it. So he hands it off, and then Luca colors the shit out of it. Like there's a lot of mutual trust and respect, I think, that makes the whole thing go really well.
Which is why next time I'm just going to be like crowd scenes all the way through.
You wait and see what happens next time.
There is no desert that's gonna save your ass if you do something like that, my friend. Down Under is not gonna save you.
I guess it helps not how do I put this? Not being across from each other at a studio if you don't agree with something, or you're just pissed off at the writer going, oh my God, how am I going to draw 55 people on the scene? Can we cut that down? It really helps that you're in different continents and in different time zones. So by the time you may be
you
writing
have a buffer zone to vent.
Yeah, you by the time you get finished writing your email, you're like, you know what, I can do it. Delete, right? It's a little bit different than working across from somebody. Has there ever been any kind of not disputes, but like disagreements? Like, hey, I think this would work better this way, but whether it's the colors or the art different than the way that David imagined it in his head, has that happened before?
I think I can point to maybe one or two things where Shane had one idea in his head and I've had to go, oh, maybe story wise or something. Like there'll always be a detail that I'll fixate on, and either I'll be wrong or I'll be right, and somebody will either prove me wrong or
Let me
or they
no
won't.
look, let me just lay it out like this. I'm a child of the 90s. Like I grew up with McFarlane and all that kind of stuff. So David's like, "Hey, you should draw this page with a lot of story and things that matter." And I'm like, "No, hero shot. Just hero shot. That's it."
The action.
Splash pages and spread pages.
Yeah. Pockets.
Yeah.
But I think that, like, especially with this team, Omar, you said we're lucky, but we all work really hard. And I think that the mutual respect for everybody else who works incredibly hard is what is kind of the glue that sticks all this together.
Yeah.
And like that's what makes the comics pages come out, because every comic is a miracle.
A miracle of love.
Miracle.
Absolutely. I wasn't downplaying it. I think it takes a lot of work, and
Oh, for sure.
there's also this thing with like you could get lucky, and like in the sense of like, okay, that is a really good cover, really cool cover.
Yep.
But not every cover artist can draw sequential art, so I think
No.
it takes a specific talent to go from this, which by the way kicks ass.
Thank you.
haven't- That looks like an album cover, so it helps.
That's probably my that's probably my album cover design happening.
So, to go from that to actual sequential storytelling, because there is a difference between this and something that looks like this. I mean, this draws the eyes to the book. And
I
this,
appreciate that, man. I honestly, I
this
really
keeps you
appreciate
there.
it. Why? Because I put like, you're right. They're very different. Like, because I'm joking, but of course, like, it'd be nice to just draw splash pages and hero shots all over the place. But like, actually drawing story, that was probably the biggest learning curve getting into comics, was like trying to make story, make it not only make sense that you can see what's going on, but it's still art. You're not just doing storyboards, so you're trying to make it also interesting. Everything should pop, and that's I mean, I'm going to spend my entire life trying to figure it out, and I think every artist, no matter how great they are, think the same way. Like, is there a better way to tell this, or it's an ongoing process, which is why, I know I'll be sticking with it for years, because I never get tired of it. Every page is a challenge, and every page is a reason to keep learning. So
There is the constant feeling of have I done the best thing I ever will, or can I do something better? There's always chasing that. I want to do something better. It's gotta be the next thing. I'm not done. I have more.
Yeah.
That next
Please.
issue, 100 cars riding 100 horses on bikes. What do
Hey,
you think?
you just wait and see, dude. I'm moving into my expressionist phase, so they're not going to look like shit.
What?
So.
Sorry, what? Excuse me? Excuse me, what? Have I misheard?
Luca, being the colors of something like this that has, how do I put this, graphic violence, do you ever sit there and go, oh, that needs a lot more blood? Fun with that.
I kind of do at some points,
Mhm.
but just to, how would you say, it's almost a force of habit at some point, because having worked in horror for quite a while at this point, and even horror gory movie, there is that feeling of being there and knowing, yeah, I can push a bit. There is a bit of a splatter that could be added over the lines here and there, just to give the feeling of motion more than anything else.
I love over the top violence, whether in movies or in comics. So I always wonder, when the colorist goes in and goes, I think the human brain can hold a lot more blood than what the artist thinks. So I'm just gonna add some more.
It's that level of over the top comics. It just there is no. Have you ever seen Tokyo Gore Police?
Yo, yeah, I love that.
Yeah. So if anyone in the crowd has not seen it, or you two guys have this terrible fault on your lives, you'll see it, because it's one of the goriest and funniest movies I've ever seen, and that's the perfect idea for how much can I push without it looking Completely idiotic, but still super fun and visually appealing.
Oh, okay. I can see that now. Is it like when people are getting their heads crushed? Okay.
There's
Yeah.
splatters everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah.
You wouldn't normally survive not even a fifth of that kind of level of violence. But you know, it's that little zone between realistic and it's okay. It's an action comic.
Yeah.
I see that.
Is it trauma?
It's not trauma. It's close to Asylum, though, maybe.
It's not as camp. I love trauma, though. I know a lot of
Yeah.
teams. These are my buddy Josh, who is actually trying to publish his book right now. I know a lot of teams try to outdo the other. Has there ever been a moment where the art team shocked David?
Oh, they like. I will say, and I don't. This is not me just saying this.
Mhm.
Every issue seems to, with Shane and Lucas, seems to outdo the last. And that's not to say the last isn't good, but there's just like every issue is a level up. And certainly when I started to see the first few pages of Volume 2 come in, I was completely and totally blown away. And you like, if you haven't, first of all, if you haven't picked up the first volume, do that. But get on the Volume 2 train, because the hype is real. Their art is fantastic, and I'm just trying to keep up. That's where I'm at.
That's modesty at its best, buddy. I appreciate it.
But I get a second the feeling the jump in quality that Shane made between Volume 1 and Volume 2 is absurd. I honestly didn't think it was possible. He was good in the first volume, but it was still very stylized, and there were cartoonish. I remember some reviewers did not even liking it. Find one that doesn't like it now. Find one. I dare you. I double dare you. It's incredible.
People like to jump on the bandwagon.
Done. Sure, you're not done.
I mean, honestly, like, yeah, we're all just this is look at it's like a family love in here. This is nice. I appreciate
gained, my friend. This is not a given.
No, I appreciate it. And you know what? Like, honestly, for my part as the artist, like you get an amazing story and you want to do it justice. Like, that's the biggest thing. Like, you want it to pop as much as you're seeing it on the page, right? So I'm just doing my best to draw the shit out of it. That's my job.
Well, thanks for being good at it. That's my joy.
Hey. Yeah, right.
I appreciate you being good at it just for me, actually. Yeah, just so I can have a good time coloring.
I do like this that you guys, it seems like you work well with each other. I think that's good, because I think in the world of comics, it is a team effort, right? You have the writer, you have the artist, you have colorists, inkers, letterers. And just like any job, not everybody's going to get along, right? But it seems like you guys are really building each other up. I like that. That's nice.
Well, and you got to appreciate it.
The art and the story.
Well, I think you got to appreciate it when you've got it, because you're right. I mean, we're all going to hopefully have long careers, and you're not always going to work with people that you kind of have like there's like a magic thing with certain people that just work really well together. So, I've learned to appreciate that, here and in music, right? When you have a great thing and great collaborators, there's really nothing like it, to everybody's work complementing each other's, it's magical, to say the least. I can't think of a better word.
It's very appreciated.
I'm just trying to be nice to these idiots who've worked overtime, hunched over a table, trying to make the stories happen. I don't want to piss them off.
Hey, I trimmed my days down from 22 to 18 on the last arc, so we're good.
How long does it take to put the book together, from script to print?
Does anyone has an estimate?
If you were to guess, like, because I assume David, before he goes to print, before he goes to the letter, do you overlook at the art and the color samples? I'm not even sure what the process is anymore, honestly.
I mean, our process is pretty streamlined. That being said, it's very much a how long is a piece of string sort of question, because you have to factor in the the time between when the ideas sprout into my head to outlining to scripting to when the script actually gets edited to when it goes to Shane to when Shane finishes and then it goes to Luca. But to illustrate the point is that comics take a while, and we started this journey in end of October, I think, 2019, and time to print was from October 2019 to May 2021. So it was a decent chunk of time between when we started the thing and when it hit people's hands. And I think that time was significantly shorter for volume 2 because we sort of started in March 2021 and it came out in April 22. So there was some schedule shuffling, and these guys, much to their credit, and I'm sorry if I'm now swearing on your show, but they hold us and produced something that's pretty special. So
yeah, that's awesome. The reason I was asking is because Shane is you still have a rock band, right? I mean, so you kind of have to. Wow. So you have to like time manage everything. David, are you still practicing law, or did you just give that up?
I'm in a legal technology role at the moment. So yeah, I also have a day job because you need more than one successful comic to replace the day job, unfortunately.
Yeah, I understand.
There's a difference between success and economical safety.
Yeah.
What about you, Luca?
I am full-time colorist finally.
Full-time colorist. Congratulations.
Took me a while. I think it's on my 9 or 10 years by now. Well, maybe more. That I'm trying to wiggle both things. I was you call it a graphic designer for events and web administrator. So doing stuff, extra stuff, whatever, just to make means end. And at this point, I'm pretty much done with everything else and focus full time on coloring.
Nice.
Finally.
So what books are you currently coloring besides Nottingham? Are you working on anything else?
I am finishing these days. I think it has been mentioned already. So yeah, I am coloring the Regulators tree for Advent Comics, which is I'd say something like their Avengers. I would think we could say is their multiverse event with all their separate heroes converging in one.
Okay.
I've colored the second volume, and we're doing the third volume as we speak. And then I have a couple that are not disclosed, so I cannot say anything. I have one pitch that has been finished that's going to be sent, maybe to Matt. And another indie production that's just signed the contract today. So I'm very excited for it. It's going to be very fun. I'm happy with both the penciler. Well, it's actually a penciler and inker, and how do you call it? My mind blanked. No. So okay, there's volume 1, the volume 2 and 3 of Regulators, and the next 2 things that are not being announced. Yes.
Okay.
My mind blanked. I thought I'm missing something that I'm not. Nothing I can say.
Okay. Do you now are you getting work within, like, I'm not sure how big is the Italian comic market?
Oh no, Italian comic world is a completely separate thing.
Really?
It is it's its own ecosystem entirely. We have very little coming from the US and French market mainly, but produced in Italy is almost 100% dedicated entirely to the Italian market, and is fairly small compared to the bigger realities.
Mhm.
So I have not meddled with any of them yet. It's not that I don't want to, but it's a small biome, and it's hard to find space in it, especially because the colored comics are not the driving force. Here, the main publisher is Bonelli, which I know for a fact has something in the States as well, like Dylan Dog and Dampier, but those are the only big thing that I've outreached from the Italian market. And it's a classic Italian format, so the small comic, black and white, very standard template, because there is an editorial line that has to be upheld, and there is only sometimes some colored issue printed out, so there isn't that much space for a colorist to insert themselves. Also, I find myself really at ease with these English motherfuckers.
Not sure I should be put in that boat, but okay.
I mean, I translated some raw insults for you, my friend. So
You did.
tell me when
You did.
when else am I gonna have that fun?
Okay, so now I have to ask. Shane, you mentioned earlier Todd McFarlane, Spawn.
Yep.
Okay. So what were some of your inspirations for your art? And then I'll ask each of you, writing and the colors. Like, not just, you don't have to stay in comics. I mean, you could cover albums, whatever inspires you.
Yeah, I mean, like right now, honestly, well, it's funny. Luca's talking about great Italian artists. Like Sergio Topi is one of my all-time, like
Yeah.
just top of the heap. Come on. But like Jason Sean Alexander, one of my favorites, Sean Gordon Murphy. If you have three names, basically you're on the top of my list. So
Okay.
no, but I love those guys. And like Mike Mignola, one of my all-time favorites. You know, just it's changed a lot as I've, you know, kind of progressed, and as my style has kind of turned into its own thing. I'm gravitating to certain artists like Bill Sienkiewicz is probably like, you know, I got a bunch that are at the top of the heap, but yeah, I love Sienkiewicz stuff. Like actually just before we jumped on here, I was reading New Mutants from what is that, like 84, something like this. It's just incredible. It's like this kind of like this artwork that doesn't exist in any kind of time or place. Like, I mean, I love the 90s stuff, but you look at that and you were like, you know, Rob Liefeld looks like it's 1992, like it's in a space. People like Sienkiewicz, Topi's the same. Like that could have been made today. Like, I love that kind of timeless, like it's such a different style that it doesn't kind of live in any time or place. So yeah, those are some of my top in comics anyway.
Okay. What about you, David? Any inspiration, like from books or movies or comics?
You know, I consume a lot of media, so I'll limit it to comics. I'm a huge Tom King fan. I will just, you know, everything plugs straight into the brain, straight into the part of my brain that loves comics. That kind of playing with form thing. So all of that stuff, everything Tom King, I love. But like, there's the thing that brought me to comics was Greg Rucka and J.H. Williams on Batwoman. Just the like brilliant, you know, surrealist kind of thing that they did with Batwoman. And she's queer, she's Jewish. It was just the perfect intersection of the things I love, and the things that I am. And so, yeah, that like, this is why, you know, this is why comics are great, because you get to do, you know, you get to do things that you couldn't do in any other medium. And that's like the perfect example of that for me.
Excellent. I like that. I like that it was Rucka and J.H. Williams. J.H. Williams is one of those, like Shane was talking about, a timeless art. I mean, if you look at his stuff in the Sandman Overture, oh my gosh, that I don't even know how a human being can create things like that. It's just crazy. It's beautiful. What about you, Luca? Inspiration, comics? Were you a comic reader? I asked these two gentlemen earlier.
I have always been an avid reader, and the jump between comics and the books was immediate. So I am pretty much at home with with the subject at hand. Something I always been doing. And as for mentioning names, I generally go with Alex Ross and the Kingdom Come. For example, is the pinnacle of comics. I've said it in the past, and I'll say it again. I have still yet to see someone as a complete author top that, in my humble opinion. But it's so striking that it gives you that feeling of awe. It's it's transported me to a new level of, oh, this can be a comic. Are we not talking fine arts? Are we serious? Okay. Then I met other excellent folks like Sergio Toppi that our good man mentioned, and I realized, oh yeah, I was just an ignorant fuck. It's all me.
Well, I think it takes the right book to kind of get you there, right? Like the big jump in it was Bob McLeod drawing New Mutants, and then Bill Sienkiewicz taking over the run, and you were in a different. I mean, even Chris Claremont was just kind of like, okay, these are the type of stories I want to tell with Bill. And that's where we got like the Demon Bear saga, right? Like that's when you see creators working and feeding off of each other. Some work, and then that will change the tone of the book.
Well, and I think like, oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, I think that's kind of what we're talking about, like with our team, right? I mean, you can do Nottingham with a different team or like different artists, and it's always cool to see how different people match up and how, I mean, that's the magic of comic books, right? Is especially when you have teams of people putting them together, is like, and then your sensibility will gravitate to that. Like when Sienkiewicz took over New Mutants, like people hated it, and when Mignola started coming on the scene, people hated that too, until they started to get it, and they're like, now I can't stop looking at it, so there's it can take a little bit. Like I remember when I first saw Mignola, I was like, this is garbage, I don't understand it. And then I got then I got older, and I'm like, and I started to get into it, and it's almost like when you're a little kid and you hate the taste of certain vegetables, like you don't like olives, but when you're an adult, you can't get enough of it. It's like that, so like once I started understanding like Mignola or, other artists, other writers, now it's like, that's my main shit. It's like, that's all I read,
So Mike Mignola is an olive in the world of
comics.
He's an olive in my world of comics.
Okay. I get what you're saying. When I was younger, X-Men was my jam. I grew up in the 80s and 90s, and to go back and read things by Jack Kirby and Dave Cockrum, I was like, especially Jack Kirby, I was like, I don't get it.
Yeah.
It wasn't until I was in like my late 20s, early 30s, that I started appreciating that type of art style in the sequential form and just his panel layouts. And the same thing with Cockrum. And honestly, like people like Josh is mentioning, but no kidding, like
like Milt Caniff and Alex Toth, like,
oh my god,
it
wasn't until 30s that I was like, okay, Terry and the Pirates. Yeah, Alex Toth was a guy that I've heard about, and I was just whatever. To me, it was Jim Lee, Rob Liefeld, and Mark Silvestri, Todd McFarlane. But looking back at those, I mean, there wouldn't be any of those guys if it wasn't for people like Alex Toth. And it's just crazy to think about, how your brain changes. Like,
well, and I think it's just you start to understand it more too. I mean, I still love McFarlane and Liefeld and those guys, because what they were doing was like, you never saw that before. It was crazy. There was so much going on a page, like, and as a 12-year-old kid, it absolutely blew my mind. Like I couldn't wrap my brain around it, and it was cool. And that's the cool thing about comics as well, is that there isn't one way to do it, and actually it was a point I was going to make earlier where you were talking about us, like this being our first book. It was cool to come into it. Like I'm still pretty new to comics. And so I didn't have all this sort of baggage of like what you should do or what you have to do. And I think there's some magic to just being like, yeah, this is who we are. This is how we do it, because now that I'm getting deeper. Well, absolutely, Luca, because I am seeing in some ways, just like any art form, music's the same way, where people are like, well, this is rock to me. is what it has to be. You know, this is what like comics to me have to be this. There's so much.
Identify with that. I
Yeah.
groove with it.
There's so much room for diversity in all things, like all different styles, and there's millions and millions of people consuming it. So, you know, you stick with your thing, and people eventually will get it if it's good. You know,
If it's good, hopefully it's good.
maybe years after you're long gone, they might get it.
Hopefully before, so you can make a living, because this is still a job for us. No, I think it's quite telling that you mentioned Mignola, because he's the guy that hooked me on Spawn and the Creech. So I see how our sensibilities come close every time we talk about comics and stuff we like. So it's no surprise we go along so well when we're coming to work together, I guess.
Absolutely.
And there's also the thank you, Nerdell, and there is also the. I was thinking about the matter of being a reader since young age, and being exposed to a specific range of comics that was a bit wider than the normal you would have, because my mother had a bunch of comics randomly in their house, but there's still the refinement of taste, as you mentioned, is something that really English is failing me today. It's something you really feel growing up, and you discover there is so much more. And when you were younger, everything was fine, everything was good. You didn't have a specific niche you were particularly drawn to, maybe. At a certain point, you become this hungry wolf looking for more. Just feed the hunger, feed the beast. I need more. It's like refining your. I started listening to rock and roll and heavy metal when I was younger, but I never was in the extreme genre, extreme scene for like until I was in my 20s, 30s, and now I dig it. I feed on it more, and it's so fascinating, and it's so satisfying when you finally find somewhere your brain belongs.
Yeah, you find where you know what vibrates on the same level as your brain. Right?
And it keeps evolving. It's so exciting because you're not done. You're finding much more stuff, finding new bands from all the world. There's Chthonic. There's so many good bands from everywhere. It's like I had no idea these people even listen to this stuff. How ignorant was I? So,
well, there's so much out there, and comics are the same. There's so much, you know. So, like I said, there's something for everybody out there if they care to dig.
It's hard to find it sometimes, but
nothing better. I mean, right now, there's nothing better than Nottingham out there, top of the heap.
Of course, yeah.
But, you know,
obviously, we're not biased.
Always bring it back to shameless self-promotion,
which you can find the limited edition hardcover through Mad Cave Studios website. David.
Yes.
Now that you've gotten your first taste of writing scripts for comics, where is there anything that you want to work on, like either for like the big two or any other work that you want to do? Any ideas that's in there that you want to get out, or you want to write a Green Lantern story, a Superman, Batman, Wolverine?
You know, so many. I want to write a bunch of Star Wars. I'd love to write a bunch of Star Wars. That would be cool. I'd love to write Batwoman. Got so many ideas for that. And
sorry,
same. That's a good comment.
Our fingers are still hurting for that fucking stuff. It's just so hard.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, I'd love to write Star Wars, Batwoman. I'd love to do some Conan. That would be cool. And like maybe some Witcher comics. That would be fun. But like I generally gravitate towards where there's a story. So if someone puts an idea of a character before me, if there's a story and if it's fun to write, I'm there. You know.
I'm happy to join you for the ride, actually, since you're doing a good job with the scripts. Hola.
I can see Conan and The Witcher working with this. I mean, with the
Oh,
style of
yeah.
writing. I mean, I'm just basing it on what I've read so far of of
No,
Nottingham.
I agree. Put that idea out more, please. We'd like you to
certainly
push it as much as you can, please.
they're certainly on the same storytelling plane. I guess our sheriff is a similar kind of protagonist, to either Geralt or Conan, in that
Mhm.
he's just a guy trying to do a job,
And the same question for both you, Shane, and Luca, whoever wants to go first. Where would you like to see your artwork, your colors be?
Luca, go ahead, buddy.
Oh, I don't have one already, my man. Do you have one?
Well, I honestly, I kind of have two things. Like, I'd love to, obviously, like, I feel like I'd love to do my version of Batman. It'd be cool to get a couple of, try your hand at some like super well-known characters, but also like the way I came into the industry is ideal. And I think like I didn't ever think I would want to draw medieval anything. Like, I love history. I'm a history buff, but I was like, I don't know if I want to draw that stuff. But now that I've drawn it, like, I loved it. So I also, it'd be fun to do some mainstream things to try your hand at it. But I mostly want to keep stretching and like pushing the limits. So,
Mhm.
basically, if there's a good story, I'd love to draw it, like whatever it is, whatever genre. Like, it's fun to, because I think you can easily get pigeonholed. It's like, oh, that person's got this style. They can only do that kind of book. I think that
Right.
goes with writing and art, right? Where it's like, oh, you did good at at this one thing, so that's what you're going to do forever. So it'd be nice to keep stretching out and trying new things. Like I said, as long as the stories are great.
I mean, my mother is terrified that I've been pigeonholed in the horror genre because she's always saying, "Oh, I got a new job. Is it horror? Why is it never something funny, nice, with some happy colors?" I'm kind of good at the gritty stuff, Mom. It's not my fault. They see that and they hire me for it. I think. So I don't really have. I never thought of something like a single series or a particular. So it's hard for me. I have some editorial spaces I would like to visit, like
Mhm.
TKO opened recently. It's been quite fascinating and exciting. I kind of want to work for them. They've been constantly putting out some really interesting stuff, and I have found myself so at home with Mad Cave. It's incredible. I have really fit in well. I've been lucky and happy, honestly, to be included in this smaller at some point, but not that small anymore, group of talented creators. And and it's really hard for me to. I wouldn't know how to give you a single name. I think sometime maybe I feel like, oh, I should do something in France, just because they're my neighbors. Most of my friends over here work in France. It's a completely different environment. The pages are huge. There's so much detail. Well, Shane is already on that curve, but let's not talk about it again. So it's something that you kind of want to, but you never know. Is it really something I really want to do? I'm fine. I mean, yeah, maybe I should try, but I'm fine. I'm not that.
Okay.
I don't have those big ambitions in me. I just love doing this work and I want to keep doing it.
I love hearing that. Love hearing people enjoying what they're doing. I think it's great. And you guys keep making material like this, and people will keep buying it. And I think at least with Nottingham, it has grown that they're printing more copies of future volumes of the single issue. So that shows that the interest has been there and growing. So I think it's great. And I think New York Comic Con, right? Like that'll be a big push for Mad Cave and you guys and the hardcovers, and hopefully we'll see more collections coming from them. And
hardcover is so cool. I finally got mine. It was so good.
What I want to see is when it's all said and done, is the whole story collected in one big oversized hardcover format.
That'd be great.
Yeah, that's
That's
great.
what I want to see. Cover to cover.
Yes.
Nothing but
That's what your
work.
viewers want to see too, I think.
Yeah, they do. They do. They really do.
Jeez.
But of course, it's so cool to have, like, I've interviewed people in the past, to have your name on a book that's huge, right? Like Scott Snyder's Batman, Peter David's Hulk, and it's just so cool to see your name on a big ass book like that, and you can sit there and go,
I did
that.
Yeah.
I did that with a group of cool guys. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a weird feeling, honestly. I can tell you that's even for what we have achieved already, which is over the top for how any of our expectations could have been. So it's incredible, and we are stunned every time we talk about it. It's a revelation. I mean, we are selected for the Australian Awards. Just a few weeks ago, was it?
So we are shortlisted for the Australian Comic Arts Awards, which is pretty cool. But
yeah, it's pretty cool,
It's pretty cool, but when you're up against like 3 different Nicholas Scott books, you don't really.
I mean, we don't expect to win it. It's just
Wait. Did you say Nicholas Spark books?
No, Nicholas Scott.
Oh, Nicholas Scott. Okay, like, what category are y'all in? Gotcha. That makes more sense.
Yeah, it's just a little more sense.
Yeah. But at least you're nominated. That is really cool.
Yeah, no, it is awesome. I'm doing the writer/artistly thing of trying to temper my own expectations. So.
Oh yeah. No expectations whatsoever. Everything that comes is a God bless, and it's just I don't think we could have imagined the amount of reprints for just issue number 1. In what universe could you expect that?
Now I feel bad about giving away so many originals.
I don't. I don't. I give them to just some people I like. So I'm happy with those I gave it to.
Trying to find something. Somebody wrote that apparently it's the number 1 book that Mad Cave printed multiple. There we go. Nottingham has the most variant covers in Mad Cave Studios.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have a trouble believing that anyway.
Yeah.
I have lost count.
You've lost count of the variant covers?
That's
a good problem. That's a good problem. And I just want to take this time to thank all 3 of you. You all are from different continents. I think it's very unique. Definitely the way of the future of just people working together and in different time zones and working on one project. I think it's great, and you get something this good. For anybody watching, the hardcover is only available through Mad Cave Studios website. You can order it. It is limited to 500. So, if you really want it, you've got to make sure you get in there.
It is signed by both myself and Shane. All 500 of them. And those book plates have been on a journey around the world. So
I can boast to have the only copy that's signed by all 3 of us. I am not selling it. Don't ask
be a hot
me,
sell.
How much?
But you can also, in case you're wanting to read this wonderful book, check out the trade paperback. It is available through cheapgraphicnovels.com, waltzcomicshop.com, Amazon, In-Stock Trades, Steinbury Collectors, OPB, or Organic Price Books. Pretty much, it's still in stock, so you can get it anywhere if you just want to check it out. But the limited hardcover is available only through Mad Cave Studios, and hopefully it will sell well enough to go, hey, let's release this sucker, mass market, because I think it needs to happen. It'll be something good for them. Or maybe they're just waiting for you guys to finish the story and be like, hey, we're going to put out this big oversized hardcover of it. So
I'm so in for that. That would be so dope. I did not think about it. That's the level of no expectations we have. Just do the job, but never consider, oh man, a big book with every... The only thing that's over the top that we did not expect but considered is after the initial success of Nottingham, Matt gives to signed a contract of a partnership or something like that with a studio that does live action movies and something similar. My memory calls. So I was, are we gonna get an action movie about Nottingham? Can we please? Is that an option even?
And we all get to be in it.
Yeah. Please.
Well, you got to get you got to be the one that gets your head crushed.
Yeah,
like,
come on.
Yes, I want
That's-
the beggar that crossed the street. It's kind of like how I will live anyway. So,
That's the way to be in your own property. Like you got to get killed like right off the bat.
yes.
Gentlemen, it has been a pleasure getting to know you all. I will see you all at New York Comic Con for sure. Luca, one day I'll make it out to Italy. You could sign my copy of Nottingham.
Will be a pleasure, my friend.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, and thank you for your patience for waiting
no-
for the
no
external
worries.
causes to be quiet enough for me to join in.
I want to thank everybody for watching this, and if you have questions, leave them down below. Out of curiosity, because I'm sure some people will want to know, how can people follow your work? David, is that your Twitter handle?
Yeah, so that's my Twitter handle, or you can just check out my website at www.davidhazan.com. But my Twitter handle is, for anyone who's not physically watching, is David T. Hazan. So.
Okay. What about you, Luca?
I am everywhere pretty much on the internet as Malkamok. And if you see me, that's probably me. So even in gaming, ironically enough, because I can't be bothered to change it for everything. So Twitch, it's Twitter, Instagram. It's mostly Twitter they use for colors and stuff like this. So that's more the where to.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. And Shane, what about you?
I'm Shane Connery Volk, pretty much everywhere. Twitter is Shane C. Volk, but yeah, Shane Connery Volk. You can check out my website at shaneconneryvolk.com. Patreon, Shane Connery Volk there as well. Actually, I'm serializing some stuff there. Got lots of behind the scenes Nottingham art and all that happening on my Patreon. And then the only other place you can find me is on YouTube. I do some live drawing from time to time called the Midnight Drawer. You can check that out too.
We hop in sometimes.
And I should also say One Bad Son is the name of my band. So you can go to onebadson.com. Check that out.
You have a whole ass band that you're not promoting it? What the fuck, man?
What's your band
Always
members watching? What's up, man?
They'll be like, thanks for giving us a shout out.
Thanks, buddy.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. It was a blast getting to know you all, and I hope to see a lot more of your work in these collected editions.
Likewise, Omar. Thanks so much, man.
Thank you
so much, man. Thank you very much.